This video is of my trip to Oskar Schindler's factory in Krakow. It's now a museum, and today I did a guided tour of it. It's not quite what you might expect it to be. It's not actually a museum about Schindler and Schindler's List, and there's not much of the factory that actually remains. After the war, it became a telecoms factory, and since then, I mean, really, what's left of it is a shell, and within the shell, the local government has made a permanent museum there, and its permanent feature is the story of Krakow under Nazi occupation from 1939 to 1945. So it does have a few remnants of Oskar Schindler, and those remnants are still very, very interesting. And it's just interesting, of course, to go to the location itself. So this video really serves as a companion piece to a couple of other videos that I've done, particularly on Kazimierz, which is the old Jewish quarter of Krakow, and then particularly a video that I did on the Jewish ghetto. The ghetto and Schindler's factory are both pretty close to here, walking distance. So I think when you kind of look at all three, all different aspects of what happened with the Jewish population here in this part of Krakow. I went on a guided tour of the museum, which was great. The guide features in the video, and he added a little bit more of the story of Schindler, which helped to make it interesting. And it was nice to go because it's only just reopened after the pandemic, so it was very quiet. So it was a good time to really sort of take our time at leisure to explore the museum. So still definitely a recommended place to go. The story of Krakow itself under Nazi occupation, I think, is another important part of the history of the city, which is good to understand if you come and visit. And if you like that movie Schindler's List, it's really the place that you're going to go. That you're going to the real location, and you're going to get a few aspects of the real story there, including some features about the survivors. As I mentioned in the companion video that I did on the Jewish ghetto, it's really worth watching Schindler's List. If you've never done so before, watching it again before you visit Krakow, because it is the story of the Jewish population during the Second World War in Krakow, and obviously particularly the role of Schindler and his factory in saving over 1,000 Jews from the death camps. So a visit to the factory itself is a really, really important thing, a cool thing to do when you come to the city. Here is the factory, and you just looking at it, it's kind of hard to believe that this was the location that inspired what's regarded as one of the best movies ever made, Steven Spielberg's movie about Oskar Schindler. It's just in a quiet industrial location. You're looking at a plain white building. The steel doors are the original doors, and now it houses a really good museum featuring the story of Krakow under Nazi occupation. But there's still a few of the features left.
Internet, when you see the TripAdvisor reviews, and the reviews are disappointed because people expect here to learn something about Oskar Schindler, and then they get over here and it's like wondering, where is Schindler? What's that? It happens to me to see tourist visitors who actually just finished the exhibition, and they ask me, okay, where is the factory? Because the institution is called the Museum in the Schindler's Factory, but to make it straight, to make it clear, it's not the exhibition. The main permanent exhibition is not about Oskar Schindler. It's about German Nazi occupation in Krakow. I know the cheat, it's not my fault. This is what the city decided to do actually. They use the fact that Schindler is popular to talk about the local history of German Nazi occupation. It's not true that they didn't say anything about Oskar Schindler. They do. There will be 2 rooms, only 2 rooms dedicated to Oskar Schindler history, so and the history of the factory. So to be honest, the percentage of Schindler in Schindler's factory is about 5%, I would say, maximum, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add you much more stories. I'm gonna give you this narration which you're gonna never find out on this exhibition because it's not here actually. Because it's actually what I'm gonna add you. It will be related to the name of the museum, but not to the exhibition itself. So as we're gonna have the background, the narration of Krakow under the German Nazi occupation, that will be the topic of the history of the museum, sorry, the narration of the exhibition. I'm going to also add history from the biography of Oskar Schindler to put him in the frame of it, and we're going to finish that with the. Could you let her go? We're going to finish that with the. We're going to finish that with the office of Oskar Schindler. We're going to tell you the true story of him as well. Buried in the castle, well, below the cathedral precisely. And then the Nazis took over it, they changed the flag to the Nazi one, they changed the name to KRAKOW Burg, that was the name of the Wawel during occupation, and Hans Frank, let's say #1 of the Nazis in Poland, he settled there, so it became basically, but in slang or officially they call it Franconia. Kingdom of Hans Frank. This is how he basically behaves. And here we can see the symbol, but it's just idea of the room to make you feel overwhelmed by all of the Nazi symbols, those marches, those uniforms. By the way, they were very well designed uniforms. They were designed by Schindler, by Hugo Boss himself. Hugo Boss actually almost went bankrupt, then he joined the Nazi party, then he had several million uniforms to design, so well, it became a very successful company. So think about next time when I buy some items with the logo of Hugo Boss, ladies and gents. So here we're going to see a big name, this contrast actually. All the floors is the name, right? The year of Krakow. He knew about illegal representation and he didn't share that under
So these are the actual stairs where one of the scenes in the movie was shot, where a young lady is asking Schindler if he will take her parents to work in the factory. Particularly interesting to me were a number of pictures in the museum related to the ghetto, and if you saw my video of the ghetto, I explained how there was a wall built around the ghetto itself, and these pictures show exactly what the wall looked like, and you can still see a remnant of that today. And within the ghetto there was a pharmacist. He was a Polish man who was also instrumental in saving a lot of lives, just like Schindler himself. And this was some pictures of him, and there's a museum for him in the ghetto also.
To the photography in front of this factory. That was actually, by the way, the German name of the factory. DEF, Deutsche Malwarenfabrik, German enamel factory. And now you can go there and you will see the original historical picture. Go further, it's actually the middle top. That's actually the historical picture with Oskar Schindler. It's actually picture taken because of the 4th anniversary of Deutsche Malwarenfabrik. So that picture was inspiration for the scene in the movie. And there are plenty of stories like that, where Spielberg was inspired by true historical. But a little older and smoking, he's not interested, he's watching somewhere else. The lady is good looking, doesn't matter, they took like 30 seconds to put one letter, he's watching deeply in her eyes actually, right? he was a womanizer, you know. So that's very, very accurate. Well, one of the friends of Schindler and also one of the Schindler survival, Paul Page, he was then consultant for the film, so he actually made Schindler on many layers looks very, very historically accurate. A womanizer, drunkard, beautiful, the person who liked good cars, fast cars especially. Gambler we maybe don't see much in the movie, but he also loved it very much. Basically adrenaline, that was something that he really loved very much. And now, we don't know exactly what was here in this room. We just assume because we know what happens next to. So we assume that probably that was the office of his secretary. So we can imagine beautiful Victoria. Okay. So, maybe understand how crucial and how unique this history of this location, this room is. I will give you some background of the history of this building after the war. So, well, how Schindler managed to save those people, 1,200 people? He eventually he resettled the factory. Before the Nazis, before the Russians came, he resettled the factory to Brünnic, in German, Brnenec in Czech. So that's also his neighborhood. The area nearby he was actually grew up, he was born at. So, therefore, they was far away from the Russian front, right? So, and then at the end of the war, well, the most aggressive and the most brutal guard, he actually made him drunk. He made him sign the letter of application to be moved to the front. So he get him away, and the other one, he spoke to them saying, guys, think about your future, think about your families. How will you explain that you actually execute those Jewish people? So they actually disarmed themselves and they ran away. I mean, the German guards. That's the way how those people who were resettled, eventually they were basically saved. So the factory was left empty behind. There was no machines to produce the animal stuff at all. Therefore, after the war, they nationalized the factory, they nationalized a lot of property, especially in the industry during the communist Poland, right? And they opened here a teleport and electric wires and radio, just radio for the best picture and for the best director as well. But he wasn't the only producer. The other producer was Branko Lustig. Mr. Lustig was actually a Serbian Jew who survived Holocaust, survived Auschwitz. Lustig, when he was interviewed about the movie, he was asked, Mr. Lustig, are you not afraid that this kind of movie will show the German Nazi in a good way, actually? And he showed his number from Auschwitz on his hand. He said, have a look. That's the proof that it won't be like that. Lustig explained that the movie, the Schindler's List, is actually about two guys, the good and the bad German. The good German from this perspective is Oskar Schindler, the bad one will be Amon Goeth, the commander of Krakow Płaszcz concentration camp. Well, that's Ralph Fiennes from the movie. That's actually historical Amon Goeth. Unfortunately, I couldn't find out the picture of Amon Goeth being slimmer because he got really fat later on by the end of the war, being with the uniform also. We're gonna see some of his pictures in a moment. But nevertheless, those survivals, those people who knew Amon Goeth from the wartime, those Jewish survivals, when they saw Ralph Fiennes, they got scared extremely because he was so well prepared and so much looking like, especially with his eyesight, like this kind of icy steel eyesight, like Amon Goeth actually did at that time. Branko Lustig also played in this film. Branko Lustig played this head waiter at the beginning of the movie, the party. When Oskar Schindler give him money, he give him a table next to the Nazi officers, and basically they sing and they celebrate together. As a cover-up to go for a date, but she wasn't aware of that. And then they were walking like a lonely couple walking around, well, maybe strange neighborhood, Płaszcz concentration camp. But why he did that? Because he was recording this. According to him, he recorded through the whole of his coat, actually. And this is the only video we have from Płaszcz camp, because the Nazis basically destroyed everything. They burned all the camp down. They dig out. There's even a scene in the movie, in the Schindler's List, right? They're digging out the bodies and they're burning them. And then ashes were falling on the Stigaku for the next few days. we estimate at least 200,000, so 20,000 people died. At least 20,000 people died in Poznań because it was never the death camp, it was never a gas chamber. The people who died there was either starved to death or shut down. So that was tradition. By the way, the girl didn't want to see him after any longer when she found out it was just a cover-up. So till 1915, those cities merged together on the common name KRAKOW, but the Jewish communities didn't. There was still, before the war, KRAKOW Jewish community and the Jewish community. I was watching through the window as the Germans were walking them out of the house. The youngest little son of theirs hid behind a bush in my yard. I could have hidden him in the barn. I did it. A navy blue policeman grabbed him and put him to the rest of the family. They must have killed them all. So on those whirling things, those are actually negative stories. And then on the wall are the positives.